Good evening, everyone. We are having a public hearing on the proposed academic and financial plans for the Rochester City School District. My name is Marisol Ramos Lopez. I'm the Chief Communications Officer for the Rochester City School District. Dr. Shelley Jallow is the Independent State Monitor, and Dr. Leslie Meyer-Small is the Superintendent for the Rochester City School District. Our agenda for this meeting is as follows. We will review virtual meeting protocols, have a presentation on the overview of the proposed academic and financial plans, the district responses to the proposed plans, as well as the board response, an opportunity for the public to make comments, and the next steps in this process. Our virtual meeting protocols are as follows. After Dr. Jallow has finished her comments, I will open the meeting up for questions. Anyone who submitted a request to speak will be given 3 minutes to talk and will be called upon by name when it is their turn. Since we have combined the academic and financial public hearings into one, and if you signed up to speak for both, you will have a cumulative total of 6 minutes to speak. Speakers will be called in the order their speaking request was received. Written comments can be submitted to State Monitor at rcsdk12.org. Chapter 56 of the Laws of 2020 requires that the monitor appointed by the Commissioner of Education develop a proposed 5-year academic and financial plans in consultation with the Board of Education. The legislation also requires that the board conduct a public hearing on the proposed plans to consider their input for the community. This is our second public hearing on this topic, and that is what is happening this evening. I now turn it over to Dr. Shelley Jallow, the state's independent monitor.
Thank you, Ms. Lopez. Good evening, everyone. I'd like to start off with an overview of the development of both plans, the academic plan and the financial plan. The monitor took a 3-pronged approach to data collection. Data was initially gathered through actively participating in the daily work activities of central office staff members. Second, purposive sampling was used to identify individuals, internal and external to the organization, to participate in interviews and focus groups. Finally, district documents and other artifacts related to district business were examined. Key findings of the academic plan are as follows. RCSD must collect and examine accurate, reliable data to measure teaching and learning in every classroom, which would accelerate student outcomes throughout the district. RCSD must provide equitable resources to keep a diverse student population engaged in the lifelong learning cycle. RCSD must expand the definition of district success beyond the singular notion of graduation rates to incorporate the concept of college, career, and civic readiness. RCSD must reestablish the non-negotiable practice of regularly communicating expectations and holding every level of the organization responsible and accountable for student success. Key findings of the financial plan are as follows. RCSD at all levels of the organization should make a long-term commitment to focusing resources on the acceleration of student achievement in the district. RCSD at all levels of the organization should make a long-term commitment to redirect resources away from programs, practices, and partners that have been unable to demonstrate evidence of producing positive outcomes for students. Thirdly, RCSD should align district resources according to a declining student population. RCSD should make a systemic commitment to adhere to the budget constraints of the district and refrain from a culture of buying now and trying to figure out how to pay for it later. Number 5, RCSD should adopt a goal to reduce borrowing over the next 5 years. RCSD should optimize all processes related to the collection of money owed to the district. RCSD should demonstrate the courage to examine long-standing beliefs, practices, and structures that may be contributing to the growing budget deficit. RCSD should reestablish the non-negotiable practice of regularly communicating expectations and holding every level of the organization responsible and accountable for student success and financial solvency. In this presentation, I wanted to show a little bit about the different scenarios that are included in the plan. The plan includes, the financial plan rather, includes 3 scenarios. And these are scenarios that are based on the idea or the assumption that there may be cuts to state aid to the district. Scenario 1C represents no cut or minimal cut. If we receive no cut to state aid to the district, if there is no cut, then as you can see, we will have a fund balance this year of a little over $82 million, which will cover our deficit of $47.5 million, which will leave us at the end with a year-end balance of a little over $34 million. As you can see, that will allow us to start the year next year with a $34 million end of balance from the previous year. That's if there is no cut from the state. Scenario 2C represents a 5% cut. If the district receives a 5% cut in state aid, our scenario changes slightly. We have a larger deficit now at about a little over $75 million. We still have the same fund balance of $82.2 million, but as you can see, our year-end balance changes dramatically, and it's just a little over $6 million, about $6.7 million. But once again, that $6.7 million would carry over into the next year and represent monies that could help us for the beginning of the 22 school year. Scenario 3C is a little bit of a more dire picture financially for the district. This is if the district suffers from a 10% cut in state aid. If we have a 10% cut in state aid, the fund balance remains the same at $82.2 million, but our deficit grows because our revenue has dropped, and we would now have a deficit of $103 million. But we would have a fund balance of $82 million to offset that amount, resulting still in a deficit for our year-end balance of a minus $21.2 million. So we're hoping that it doesn't go to 10%, and we certainly are hopeful that it doesn't go to 20%. But we thought it was important that we show the different scenarios, a scenario of no cuts, 5% cut, a 10% cut. The one thing that we know now is that we don't know exactly what that cut will be for the school year for this district and for many districts across the state, all districts across the state. So we felt it was important to show different scenarios to give an idea of what it might result in for the district. At this point, we still do not know, and we await that information. As soon as it becomes available, we will make the proper adjustments. Actions required by the district to implement the academic and financial plans. So we've done preview of these presentations about the finances and the academics at the ESSA and the finance committees back in October. We did another 2 work sessions with the board and the superintendent on the 10th and the 12th of November. We voted and approved to accept both plans in preparation for the public hearing on 11/18, and we will submit the final version of the plan on December 1st, which is tomorrow, by close of business tomorrow. Chapter 56 of 2020 requires that the monitor submit the proposed academic and financial plans along with any disagreements and requested amendments and documentation providing justification for such disagreements, requested amendments to the Commissioner of Education no later than December 1st, 2020. Where there is agreement on one or both of the proposed plans, such plans will be deemed approved. Where there is disagreement on one or both of the proposed plans by January 15, 2020, the Commissioner shall approve the proposed plans with any of the requested amendments or make any other modification the Commissioner deems appropriate. The board must provide the Commissioner with any information requested to approve such plan within 3 days of such request.
Next, we will allow persons who have signed up to speak a maximum of 3 minutes for each of the topics. So if they signed up for academic and financial, they will have 6 minutes to make their comments and/or ask their questions. Speakers will be brought into the Zoom room and asked to turn on their camera and unmute themselves. The order of speakers is students, parents, community, and staff. A record of this public hearing will be made available on the district's website at www.rcsdk12.org, and please click on the State Monitor Public Hearings. The draft of the academic and financial plans are also available on the district's website. Answers to any questions that were not addressed in this hearing that are relevant to the topic will also be available in the public record. I will stop sharing this presentation and we will bring on our first speaker. I would like to let the public know that we had 6 individuals sign up to speak this evening and 2 individuals who submitted their public comments. Our first speaker is Mr. Paul Conroe, a parent, and he is going to be speaking on the academics plan. Mr. Conroe, you may unmute yourself, and you have 3 minutes.
All right. Dear board and Dr. Jallow, my name is Paul Conroe. I am the father of 4 RCSD students. I am passionate about these schools and school data. Tonight's key data point is $600 million. In the past 10 years, the RCSD has spent $600 million on transportation costs. $600 million. According to Section 3, page 23 of this year's budget, the transportation allocation is just over $80 million. Yes, there is a need for busing. But let's imagine if just 1/10 of that allocation, or $60 million, had been shifted over the last 10 years. With less busing, we might have had significantly more academics and arts that all families and students wish were available. With a portion of that $60 million, there could have been a well-funded theater, arts program, and instruments for an orchestra at every high school. I teach at East High School in a precision optics lab that received $2 million in state grant funds over the last 5 years. With a portion of that $60 million, I could have helped build similarly well-funded world-class STEM labs at every high school. The point is, transportation can be reduced in order to improve the experience at every high school. The state continues to pay a greater share of the district's hundreds of million-dollar budget. Whether it is in transportation aid or other revenue streams, the state is paying for nearly all of the busing cost increases. I am excited and encouraged by Dr. Jallow's recommendation for neighborhood elementary schools. I hope that my point of view pushes the board to consider community, neighborhood high schools too. Finally, I wish to point out something that I've noticed in the last 20 years. Reality chases perception in the RCSD, and the choice policy sets up academic winners and losers for buildings and students. The winners are the schools that are perceived as better performing. Families with the greatest agency from across the city all select the same narrow list of schools that are perceived well. If a student gets into these schools, they win. Those buildings win because their population has a higher percentage of students with outside support systems. The RCSD buses the lottery winners across the district to the schools perceived as good. And equitably, the RCSD buses the lottery losers across the district to the schools with less popular reputations. Please create great and equitable programming across the district. Use dollars saved in transportation costs to fund academics and arts at every high school. Create the reality that every high school in every neighborhood has world-class arts, academics, and athletics. As more families perceive that the RCSD schools are offering more families will select these schools instead of going urban, suburban, charter, private, or moving out of district. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Conroe. Have a good evening. Our next speaker is Claire Labrosa, who is a staff member. Claire, welcome.
Hello.
Hello. You have 3 minutes. Thank you very much.
Thank you. My name is Claire Labrosa. I'm a graduate of the RCSD. I'm currently a teacher in the district, a resident of the city of Rochester, and I have 3 children, ages 2, 7, and 9. So first, I wanted to share my disappointment with the board. I presented a petition signed by hundreds of parents, educators, and community members just a couple of weeks ago in opposition to appointing a charter school affiliate to our board. And they went forward and appointed one anyway. So So I know I won't forget when it's time to vote again, and I urge everyone watching to remember that as well. Next, I'd like to share some points in response to Dr. Jallow's media comments over the last several months. I first want to point out that for some reason, even though our district is owed millions of dollars in foundation aid, we are being forced to pay for the state monitor out of our own budget. $155 per hour plus a living stipend. And to give some context, as a teacher in the district, my hourly pay is $37 per hour. So for every hour that we pay Dr. Jallow, we could pay 4 teachers to work directly with students. In response to class sizes and student-teacher ratios, just recently Dr. Jallow said, and I'm quoting, "I'm not saying you have to go to the max, but you do a little bit better on these ratios. I think it is costing you financially, but also it has an impact on academics as well." And I know I'm not alone in being baffled by Dr. Jallow's class size assessments. Not only are the majority of our classes at capacity, if they are not, it is either because an IEP dictates the size of the class or because the district is not able to predict which students will be returning from charter schools or moving in between RCSD schools at any given time. My confusion continues, as I'm not sure there is a single piece of credible education research that shows larger class sizes increase student achievement. What the research does show is that smaller classes lead to better results for kids, especially those who need help the most. Class size reduction has been shown to lead to higher test scores, better grades, more engaged students, fewer disciplinary referrals, and less teacher turnover. Children assigned to smaller classes are more likely to graduate from high school on time, attend college, and get a STEM degree. Smaller classes will also likely lead to substantial cost savings by lowering special education referrals, boosting 4-year graduation rates, reducing the need for expensive and often less effective intervention services. And economists have estimated that reducing class size benefits about twice the costs, especially for low-income students and children of color, who get most of the students in the Rochester City School District. As a result, class size reduction has been identified as one of only a handful of reforms shown to narrow the achievement and
I'm sorry, but your 3 minutes are up.
sorry, that's okay. An
If
opportunity
you'd like to,
gap.
if you'd like to submit those in writing to our email address, I will
Sure,
happily
I will.
make sure that we have them for Dr. Jallow.
All right, thank you so much.
Thank you. Dr. Jallow, I don't see any other speakers that had signed up to speak in the waiting room. So if it's okay with you, we can close the hearings.
Okay. It's up to you.
We have been waiting, hoping that the other parents who signed up to speak would join us. Unfortunately, they are not in the waiting room.
Is it appropriate? Oh.
Go ahead.
Is it appropriate to read the statements that were submitted? Can we do that?
Yes, I will have to access them.
Oh, I thought you had it. If not.
No, I can pull it up. It's okay. So our first comment comes from Leah Elliott, who is a parent, and her topic is related to reducing staff. And she says, "I'm concerned about reducing staff since the relationships kids have with teachers and other school staff is so important. I've seen teachers overwhelmed with bigger classes and the help and connection when class sizes can be reduced, even for short periods of time when there are assistant teachers. I'm not sure of the correct terms. We also need our buildings to be safer so that we can return from remote learning safer. I don't understand why we cannot have the resources other areas have, as we have the largest student population. Is there any way to get more state and local funding?" The second comment comes from Denise Anderson, who is a staff person. and she's writing about the State Monitor Academic and Fiscal Report. On many points, the reports are spot on. We waste time and resources on programs that don't work. Many of the programs the district utilizes have not proven successful, and there is no data to support their continuation. We also don't stick with programs very long. When a program doesn't work right away, we switch to a new program. We waste time and resources on expensive programs. We also don't train teachers effectively when we adopt a new program. We build the airplane while it's in the air. We need to choose a program with proven results, properly train teachers before utilizing the program, and stick with the program. In addition, we need to do intensive RTI for our youngest scholars. We don't have enough staff to do the intensive RTI needed in the lower grades. Our scholars can't read. When they come to high school unable to read, they are lost. Hence our graduation and regent struggles. In addition, a significant number of scholars placed in special education simply have problems reading. If scholars can't read well before leaving elementary school, the likelihood they will suddenly become amazing readers in high school is laughable. Yet we continue to get rid of teachers and invest in reading programs with no phonics or vocabulary development in them. We need to bring back reading teachers and have more staff, not less, in the lower grades. For secondary students, we need more CTE classes and programs, more flexibility in schools and scheduling. A remote high school and significantly expanded CTE programs, not just a few CTE but courses for all. And that concludes the speakers who submitted comments in writing.
Thank you very much. I appreciate you reading those
Okay.
for the public record.
All right, so this concludes our public hearing. Again, if you have comments, you can submit them to State Monitor at rcsdk12.org. And you can visit our website to read the State Monitor plans, as well as any comments that have been submitted throughout the public hearings. Thank you and have a great evening.